All right, we are live. Welcome. This is Orion Rising. I'm your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. Show this out, show this out, show this out. All right, so I apologize for that. I went to go live. And again, for some reason, it said that I was having problems going live on Twitter. And when I went to kick Twitter off, it, for some reason, defaulted to a screen that said something in StreamYard, and I didn't click on it, but somehow I must have clicked twice, and I clicked on it, and it took me to another page in the StreamYard app or the program in their website, and it booted me from being live. I've never seen that happen before. Usually, if you drop from being live, you have like 2 minutes in StreamYard to come back. So I had to restart the entire event. So I apologize. Let me remove this overlay here. Welcome, Penny. Welcome, Cassie. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, it's been. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let me turn off this overlay here so I can see you guys. Put myself up in full screen here. So yeah, that was bizarre. I don't know what was going on there, but that's 2 weeks in a row. It said that everything was fine to go on to my Twitter account, and then all of a sudden it was asking for permission or said something, and I was like, okay, get rid of Twitter then. And when I clicked on it, another window opened up, and then I didn't click it again, but apparently I must have. And all of a sudden it took me to something in StreamYard and booted me off the air. And I was like, wait, let me go back. And nope, I was off the air. So I apologize for that, but I'm back. Okay. And so, yeah, that was bizarre. So for those of you who turned on the first thing, it literally started the music, and then nothing happened. For the rest of you around the world, you didn't probably tune in right that second, so you don't know about that. So when you hear this, you will be like, I have no idea what he's talking about. Right, Rick, welcome. Peter, welcome. Okay, so it's Friday night. Welcome to the Law of One. We're going to start the new session this week. Like I said, show this out. I apologize. I don't know what's going on with Twitter. Everything was working fine. It didn't tell me that it had lost contact with Twitter, so I'm not sure what's going on. I do have two accounts with Twitter, but I don't know what's going on there. And then I hooked it up to go live on Instagram, and it won't let me go live on Instagram right now, so I got to go to Instagram and give it permission. And StreamYard's getting to be a pain in the butt. I just canceled my Zoom account. Maybe that was a little bit too soon. Although I do have a Rumble account, and everybody keeps telling me I should go live on Rumble and stream it to everywhere. And I'm looking into that because I already have a Rumble account, and it takes like, I don't know, if I do a 2-hour show, it takes almost 2 hours to load a video on Rumble. They've never changed that. So they are literally trying to make it so that you will go live on their platform. They always have been because they want you to pay them. But you know, with Facebook dying the way it is, I can go live on Rumble and stream it to Facebook and stream it to, I think I can stream it to Twitter. I know I can do Instagram from there. So I can still go live on 3 or 4 platforms. In fact, I think I can go live on 4 platforms there, and I can only go live on 3 platforms over here. So I'm looking seriously at going live. I may do that next week or do a test during the week at some point and just go live on Rumble because I had an account up there. I started posting my shows up there again. So I figured I might as well look into it. That way I can just lose all of this problem with Facebook that I keep having and everybody else from StreamYard, because it seems like right now I'm paying StreamYard $160 a year. I'm not paying Rumble anything. So I got to look into theirs and see how many hours I get for free and find out what the cost would be if I'm going to be on there before I just jump over and start doing it. Because, pardon me, a lot of times there's hidden costs they don't tell you about. And then they're like, oh, you have 45 hours and that's all you get per year for free. And then I would burn through that in 3 shows are like 9 hours. So it wouldn't take me more than a month or 2, and I wouldn't be able to go on there unless I paid them. And they don't have the features, but it looks like that's where most of the audience is broadcasting from these days, that have to worry about being shut down everywhere else. So I'm not tripping on that. We'll figure that out. I'll look into that. Bo, welcome. All right, so we'll figure that out. So share this out. Okay. So commercial about my book. I always have to do a commercial about my book now that my book is out. I've been posting it and getting really close to being put into Facebook jail and everywhere else because I'm posting it on every platform, right? So let me go over here to to the photos and throw it up there. Here's my book right there. There's Returning to the Old Ways, right? It's the reality about reality, returning to the old ways. And I've actually looked online, and I've literally found it online on the entire northern hemisphere of the planet. And most of the lower hemisphere of the planet. So it is literally worldwide. I found it on a Swedish website, a German website, a Norwegian website, an American, Canadian, all of the Americas. I found it on a Korean website, a Filipino website. Where else did I find it? You can find it anywhere, like Australia, anywhere. But, a lot of people don't want to pay the extra money to have it shipped. But it might be cheaper to get it from the Philippines or from South Korea and have it shipped to Australia instead of buying it from America and having it shipped there, unless it's the same cost. I'm not sure what that is. So they put that back up on the screen for those of you who look. That's a hardcover copy that you see right there, hardcover copy right there on the screen. Here's two softcover copies. The stacks of them when I got them. I didn't take a picture of the stacks of hardcovers when I opened the box. I just went and put it away. So, okay. Let me go back over here and see what you guys are talking about, right? So, yeah, so my book is live everywhere on the planet. There's links everywhere. I have a link to my publisher to purchase it there, so I don't have to pay money to a middleman. But I do also have links to other websites like Barnes and Noble and Amazon, but they get a cut of it. If you go to and buy it from Author House, then the cut is only the cut that they and I split. So I get paid more money out of the deal. And a reminder for those of you who have bought the book, please give me a review, especially if you bought it on Barnes and Noble or Amazon, because there's so many people that are on there. The ones on Amazon are like gold. So if you guys have, in fact, even if you haven't bought it there, you can go there and review the book. So if you have bought it and you're reading it, go there and please give me a good review, because those are gold. The more good reviews you have, the more people will tend to buy the book off of those platforms. So it's out there for the world, and I'm putting it out all the time, spamming everywhere, in different groups and all over the internet, and making different videos and different memes for it, and posting it so that they're not always the same. Because I had some people, I did that one where I used the program to tell you the description of the book, and I had somebody say, well, I don't think I'll be looking into that book. Having an AI voice selling your book and about spirituality is not something that I'm into. But then again, people do some weird things. Today on Facebook, a woman posted something about, what did she post about? It was about politics, and it was about, I think it was about Kamala Harris, and I had said something about, well, that's your religion, and, you have to deal with that, what you have in mind there. And she said, well, you're obviously, remember I tell you, every time I speak, if you're a Democrat in your mind, you automatically think I'm a Republican. And if you're a Republican, you automatically think I'm a Democrat, because I don't follow that religion at all. So she immediately said, you're obviously a Republican and a Trump fan. And I was like, that's your religion, not mine. And she says, well, I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she's going to make sure that women have the say so about their own reproductive organs. And I was like, so what are you saying? Are you saying that the Republicans are not allowing women to vote? Because that's what Donald Trump did when he overturned Roe versus Wade. He kicked it back to the states, and all the states have to vote on it. Well, they're not allowing women in these different states. And I was like, well, they voted on it, right? So what you're saying to me is that you believe that white men Republicans in other states besides the one you're in are not allowing women to vote there, or they're forcing them to go and vote in a way that is telling everybody to make abortion illegal. And she replies to me with gaslighting me and trying to put words into my mouth is not going to work. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. However, in the legislature of some of those states, the Republicans are passing a law without putting it to vote to the constituents in that state and making it illegal. And I said, funny how you said I was gaslighting you. And when I asked you if you were trying to say that white Republican men are not allowing women to vote or going around women and forcing them to vote for something they don't want, and you told me I was gaslighting you, and then in the same breath said to me that white Republican men were in fact changing the laws and not giving people a vote. Please let me know what state that happened in, because that's illegal against the Constitution, and it wouldn't take but two or three people to actually file that lawsuit and get those people taken out of the legislature from that state for doing something illegal. You know, like, say, having a bunch of Democrats, 14 million Democrats, vote for Joe Biden as in a primary election throughout the United States to give Joe Biden all the electoral votes to be the front runner and officially make him the nominee for president of the United States, and having Democratic leaders like ex-President Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and a few others going behind the scenes and telling him, you need to step down because our polls show that you will never beat Donald Trump, so you can either do this the easy way or the hard way, and forced him out, and then added Kamala Harris in without anybody voting, with no one in the United States voting on a primary, and just inserted her as the new running, and then tried to call an emergency call and roll call of the electorate so that those people could immediately push in all their chips for Kamala Harris before the Democratic National Convention. Is that what you're saying is going on here? Because that's what just happened, and that they're saying the voters of the United States of America don't count. Joe Biden stepped down, and without anybody say so, those of us who are oligarchs who are in charge are just telling you that Kamala Harris is now the operative that we want in to be the presidential nominee, without anybody in the country voting on it. Is that the kind of thing that you're trying to say that the Republicans are doing to take away women's rights in all of these red states? Because that's what just happened by the constituents and oligarchs who run this government currently, and all of you Democrats out there seem to be happy with it. And I'm not saying that the Republicans they're not doing anything about it. So I'm not saying, don't get me wrong. So some of you are going to get mad at me and say I'm a Republican, you're just obviously a Republican and my enemy, because you've been programmed to do that. But there's no Republicans trying to sue over that. There's no Democrats trying to sue over that. There's no people of the United States trying to stop that from happening and saying that's illegal. Some of the news agencies are saying that's illegal, but nobody is doing anything about that in the courts, right? And weird, let's get to that, and I'll get off politics. Weird that things like Gavin Newsom, the governor of the state of California, and all the Democrats in the state of California said that all of the Supreme Court justices that just voted to overturn Roe versus Wade and all of the lawsuits against Donald Trump, where they were trying to put him in jail and make him a felony, make him convicted of 39 felonies, and making him a felon and put him in jail, that those people don't know what they're talking about. And the Supreme Court just voted on and enacted a bill that goes out to the whole United States that makes it legal for states who have a homeless problem to go and get the homeless people off the streets. And Gavin Newsom, the governor of the state of California, is now putting together a task force to go and round up all the homeless people, push them out, throw all their stuff away, and then round them up and put them in concentration camps here in the state of California and tell them this is where the only place you can go, and you have to go here. Otherwise, you have to be off the streets or we'll arrest you. So the same Democrats who said the Supreme Court was a rogue environment and a bunch of crazy Republicans who only answer to the Republicans are not telling the whole United States that they put together a package that went to the Supreme Court, and the same Supreme Court that they hated for the last 3 months voted the way they wanted, and they didn't say a word about it. And now they're enacting this. And there's people over here, advocates, the same ones who were advocates for homeless people before, who are still now trying to sue to get this back to the Supreme Court to find out why this same crazy Republican Supreme Court sided with these crazy communist Democrats and enacted this so that they can just go and push everybody out. And that's exactly what they did. They turned the power off to one of the homeless encampments that they had for the city of Sacramento and turned the water off. And now they're going to go in there and move everybody out. And you have to be outside the city limits, so you can no longer camp on the streets anywhere in the United States. And all governors in all states can now go and give people warning and push them out. And if they come back, they can arrest them and put them in jail for it, or push them out of the city and make them sleep out in the wilderness. So weird that the same Democrats who said that all this was illegal and that this whole court needed to be changed agree with what the court said, and they're all starting to do it, since 32% of the homeless population of the entire United States is in the state of California. You guys should look into your politicians on both sides of the board in this religion that is politics and business, and take another hard look at what you got going on and what you guys are defending and fighting over with each other, and not even paying attention to what both sides are doing to all of the people of this earth all around the planet. And they have you all brainwashed and gaslit into going, I'm a Republican, so you're my enemy, and I'm a Democrat, so you're my enemy. And they're sitting back calling you useless idiots. And if you don't believe that they don't say that, Benjamin Netanyahu, when he was speaking to Congress in Washington, D.C. 2 days ago, made a point to point that out to the people who were outside protesting for Gaza and for the Palestinians, that the evil dictators literally what they call you. And he literally said that those people that are out there that are out there protesting for the evil regime of Iran, who murder women for not wearing a hood over their head and kill and hang gays from cranes, and they're paying for you guys to do all these protests around the world. You've become their useless idiots. Because he knows that that's what the evil people call everybody who blindly follows any of that religion. He actually said that. And then he went on to say, those of you who are gay out there and you're holding up signs that say gays for Palestine, you should be holding up a sign. You should just as well hold up a sign that says chickens for KFC. Because those same people that you're trying to free would immediately murder you if you showed up in Palestine right now, if you showed up in Gaza and said, I'm a gay and I'm here to help you. They would murder you, chop your head off, and parade you through the streets, not because you're an American, but because you're gay. This is the stuff you need to be paying attention to, instead of picking a side that they brainwash you into and then blindly going after that and saying, I love that they just usurped the entire process of democracy. While they're saying we have to defend democracy from Donald Trump, they just literally abolished democracy and said, no, we don't like that candidate because he can't win. This is the candidate that we want. And they're still not even sure they want Kamala Harris. So they're checking the polls to see, because right now it's a honeymoon phase where everybody who's out there who claims to be awake is going, I love it that they just put Kamala Harris in. It's not Joe, it's Kamala Harris, and she's going to beat Donald Trump. Did you vote on that? Did anybody vote on that? Well, she was on the ticket. That doesn't mean that she gets to become president now or the front runner. It means that she was voted as the person running for vice president. Everybody who voted in the Democratic primary was voting for Joe Biden to be the president. And without asking you guys, they just decided that he can't win, so he needs to go. And they kicked him out and put in a new Manchurian candidate that's the same Manchurian candidate, but this one's coherent, kind of better than he was, enough. And you guys all just went, yeah, you don't have to ask us. We're okay with it. Because you already knocked at the door, Mr. Vampire, and we already invited you in. So now we'll just sit back and say, yep, it's Kamala Harris, who I'm going to vote for. And then they lie about how much money she made. Every meme I saw for 3 days had a higher and higher number. So in the first 24 hours, first they said she made 30 million. Then an hour later, in that same 24 hours that was already passed by 18 hours, they said, nope, she made 40 million. Then 50 million, then 60 million, then 80 million, then 100 million. And even the most professional people for everything said there's no way that she made $100 million in 24 hours, and that 80% of the people who gave her money gave her $20 and they were all first-time donors. That's just impossible. That would suggest that there had to have been, literally more than, if you think about it, do the math. $20 times 100 or 100 million divided by 100 million is what? Is that like, what is that? 200 million people? So 3/4 of the population is what they want you to believe. But yet when they do a poll, current poll on Kamala Harris, she has a 41% approval rating. So that means 41% of the Democrats polled want her to be the president of the United States. So if all 41% of all the Democrats voted and gave her money that they said, yes, we approve, that's only about 28 million. If that. So you guys are not paying attention. You need to actually start paying attention to both sides and what's going on here. It's a religion of evil, and they just usurped threw the Constitution out, threw out all of the laws from every single state as to how somebody gets nominated for president of the United States and gets on the ballot for president of the United States, and didn't seem to care that anyone even knew they were doing it. And all of you guys just said, well, it's better than Donald Trump, and we think we could win with her, so we're okay. Because Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. And if he gets in, he's going to do what my political party just did. Throw out democracy, decide who's going to become the president, and not ask anybody about it. Yet Donald Trump is the threat. He's evil. Because my party is for the people, and therefore they're not doing anything wrong. See, that's the ideology that people have, that it's okay for a hot guy to pick up on you if you're a chick and you're attracted to him, but the second a guy you're not attracted to is trying to pick up on you, he's stalking you, and you need to call the police on him, right? But if a hot guy's doing that, you're okay with it. Do you see how that becomes a problem? You think that Donald Trump is the problem. Look what your party just did if you are that party. Now, I'm not saying that Donald Trump is the answer. What I'm saying is that this entire way of life that you see what's going on is not the answer. It's the wrong answer. I had somebody say, well, Donald Trump is a convicted felon of 39 felonies, which has been overturned by the same Supreme Court that you guys hate, by the way. So that means he's innocent, that he's not guilty anymore. But let's just stop right there. So they said he wouldn't even be able to be a mail carrier. Well, a mail carrier has to be bonded and all kinds of other things. So that was a rigged question. But I responded to this person by saying, you are aware that every single person who signed the Declaration of Independence was tried by a court in England and found guilty of more than 56 felonies, all of which had the penalty of death, and that every single person who fired on the British in the entire military for the United States to free that nation were also considered felons, and all of them would have been put to death for war crimes against the Crown of England had they lost. So the entire country of the United States of America was founded by convicted felons of more than 100 felonies. And you're telling me that Donald Trump being convicted of 39 felonies is a problem? I said, if that's all you got, you better bring a bag lunch. Okay, that was my answer to that. So if by that you get mad at me and you think that I must be a Democrat or a Republican, if you're a Republican, you're probably mad at me right now and think I'm a Democrat for saying the things that I'm saying. What you need to realize is that everything that one party is claiming the other party is going to do, they're actually doing on both sides. Okay? So you need to look into that. But you also need to look into things like Kamala Harris's record, because everybody out in the state of California knows Kamala Harris's record. And I posted about that, where she grew up, how she grew up, and how she made her politics, and where she went to school and her politics, because the people of the state of California know about her and don't like her out here, even the Democrats. Okay. But the establishment loves her because she is a socialist Democrat whose agenda is defund the police, get rid of the police department worldwide, or at least in the United States, get rid of ICE, open the borders, let anybody come in from anywhere, and let everybody vote no matter what country you're in so that they can keep their power for life. Look this up. There's a link that you can watch a video where somebody shows you her entire career. We know about this. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. We know about this in the San Francisco Bay Area. Okay, I'm done with that because I'm sure a lot of you are now mad at me and angry from around the world. Oh my God, he's one of those evil Republican people. I am listed as no party affiliation, okay, because I don't follow that religion as a priest for either side, and I don't defend either side, but I will point out when I see people doing something wrong and offensive to the people of the world, okay? Just like the government of the United States, when they did get their freedom from the English, the very first thing they did was arrest the entire pirate crew who defended the South against the English, and gave them money and also gave them ships and gave them cannons and gave them all kinds of stuff. And then they confiscated the entire state of Florida that was owned by pirates at the time. So the United States government seized their fleet, all of their wealth, all of their weapons, all of their everything, all of their ships, all of their men, and anybody who would not sail for them was put in prison. And then they got let go, John the Foot, or John the Feet, however you say his last name, and gave him 24 hours, which is where you get the Jack Sparrow ideology from Disney, by the way. And they gave him 24 hours to escape, and they didn't chase after him as long as he didn't try to come back. And then they systematically started annihilating Native Americans in the United States and committing genocide on them. And the Canadians did the same thing. So it was very European in style. The French Canadians and the English Canadians on the West Coast that has now made up the Canadian government committed the same genocide that the American oligarchs from Europe committed on the Native Americans over here. Okay. And they continue to do that to this day. I saw someone on the news saying that currently Black female Americans are disappearing at a larger rate than any other race in the United States. And every time they disappear, the news agency, the same one they own, only says that they're a bunch of hookers, which is untrue because it's just not the case. And it's people stealing them and murdering them and raping them. And I was like, really? You guys should ask some Native Americans about the numbers of how many females go missing and get raped and get murdered in the United States. And let's see that in the last 200 years, who was more murdered, more raped, and more disappeared from the United States, Black females or Native American females. I'm not saying that either one of those are good, because I will guarantee you that those two females are the two largest groups of women that are being disappeared, raped, and murdered in the United States. And that's been happening since the beginning of the United States, orchestrated by the same Democrats and the same Republicans who have been running this country and their ideology that is still running it today. Just saying, you should pay attention to that stuff. If you want to have any, and some people get mad at me and go, you're not a patriot. I love this country. I love the Constitution, but I do not like evil people being in charge of a good thing. And that's what's happening around the world currently, not just in the United States, but it is happening here as well. There isn't a country that's not being infiltrated or has been infiltrated by these evil oligarchs that think they own the world. You guys need to do something about that. You need to educate yourself about what it is that they've taken from you. And to do that, one of the things that you can do is you can read my book, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, and you will find the information. It's on the online anywhere that you look up books. Just look up The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, and you'll find the information that they've been hiding from you systematically for over 1,500 years and further back than that on this earth. And that information is a way of life that can change your entire immortal soul for the rest of eternity. And you guys should look into that. Okay, so now I'm done with that in my soapbox. Let's get into the law of one now that I've probably lost half of the people who tuned in the very beginning because they think I'm their enemy. All right. So let's get into the law of one. Let me do a sound check for you here. Let me find this here and press play. We do a sound check. You guys let me know if you guys can hear it okay. How about I go back over to the comments section so I can see what you guys are saying in the comments. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and press play. We're on session 45, I believe is what I have queued up. So this is the law of one. Let's go ahead and start it. Let me know if you guys can hear it okay.
May 29th, 1981. 54.0 Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. 54.1 Questioner. First, I would like to ask of the instrument's condition. Ra. I am Ra. It is as previously stated. 54.2 Questioner. I have a question from Jim about an experience he had when he first moved to his land, in which he was told, the key to your survival comes indirect, through nervousness. The entity was Angelica. Can you give him information with respect to this? Ra. I am Ra. Yes. 54.3 Questioner.
And Rick, the song that you're quoting, I don't know if that was a typo. He said, "Hey Joe, where are you going with that gym in your hand?" It's "Hey Joe, where are you going with that gun in your hand?" That was a song by what's his name? I can't think of his name right this second. I can see his face. Famous, played the Star Spangled Banner with his teeth on his guitar. Jimi Hendrix. That's a Jimi Hendrix song. And it's "Hey Joe, where are you going with that gun in your hand?" It's a song called "Hey Joe" by Jimi Hendrix. But that's funny. Where you going with that gym in your hand? It's gun. Maybe that was a typo and you tried to type in gun. That's Hendrix. Yeah, Cassie said it. Hendrix. Yeah. Jim, because Joe's a hippie. Well, he was a hippie, but yeah, no, it was. Or you could say, Jimmy. That would be a gun. That's slang for in America for a gun. Jammy, Jimmy. That's current slang for at least in the last 20 years. Because rod, they used to call it a rod back in the 30s or 40s here, right? So, all right, let's continue. That's funny that you said that.
Would you please do that? Ra. I am Ra. As we have noted, each mind/body/spirit complex has several guides available to it. The persona of two of these guides is the polarity of male and female. The third is androgynous and represents a more unified conceptualization faculty. The guide speaking is sound vibration complex, Angelica, was the female polarized persona. The message may not be fully explicated due to the law of confusion. We may suggest that in order to progress, a state of some dissatisfaction will be present, thus giving the entity the stimulus for further seeking. This dissatisfaction, nervousness, or angst, if you will, is not of itself useful. Thus its use is indirect. 54.4 Questioner. Thank you. I would like to trace the end.
Right, I know. I was looking at that. I wanted to make a comment about that. Who was it that said that? Was that Denise? Yeah, Denise said, "I like Jimmy. I saw him in person. Wow, I would have loved to have been able to claim that I went and saw Jimi Hendrix in concert. Holy crap. I was amazed that I got to go and see Judas Priest in concert when I was a teenager because I absolutely love that band and Rob Halford. I had tickets twice to go and see Metallica. I never was able to go and see them, even though I paid to have tickets twice. I went and saw Ronnie James Dio after he left Black Sabbath, after Rainbow, after Sabbath, when he was on his own. I went and saw him. I saw, who else did I see? Saw a lot of people. U2, loved seeing U2 in concert. Saw them at the Open Coliseum, so it was huge with 100,000 fans. Again, all of this happened before I was 21. By the time I was like 16 to 20 or 21 years of age, I went to a lot of concerts. Lot. Those are just like the metal bands that I saw. I used to go to the Day on the Green. I used to go to the KMEL out here in San Francisco, which was a pop station, used to do KMEL jams, and they used to have these big, huge concerts. I used to go to those. I went to a George Strait concert in the Open Coliseum that was called the Straight Land Tour. I think at the time I was 22, 23 years old. And that was a 12-hour concert that started at like 10 in the morning and went until 10 or 11 at night. And every single country band, including Garth Brooks and Faith Hill and her husband and everybody that was around back then, even the ones that were just starting out, they all played. It was literally this concert that he put on that all the bands toured around the whole country and the world, all the country bands. So I got to see all of them. That was pretty badass. That was one of the greatest concerts I ever went to. But that's crazy that you got to see Jimi Hendrix. I can't claim that. I would love to have said I saw Jimi Hendrix. You rock, Denise. You rock. All right, let's continue.
Energy that I assume comes from the logos. I'm going to make a statement and let you correct me on the statement and expand on my concept. From the logos comes all frequencies of radiation of light. These frequencies of radiation make up all of the densities of experience that are created by that logos. I am assuming that the planetary system of our sun, in all of its densities, is the total of the experience created by our sun as a logos. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 54.5 Questioner. Now, I am assuming that the different frequencies are separated, as we have said, into the 7 colors, that each of these colors may be the basic frequency for a sub-logos of our sun logos, and that a sub-logos, or, shall we say, an individual may activate any one of these basic frequency or colors and use the body that is generated from the activation of that frequency or color. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. If we grasp your query correctly, this is not correct in that the sub-logos resides, not in dimensionalities, but only in co-creators, or mind/body/spirit complexes. 54.6 Questioner. What I meant was that a mind/body/spirit complex then can have a body activated that is one of these 7 rays. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct in the same sense as it is correct to state that anyone may play a complex instrument which develops an euphonious harmonic vibration complex such as your piano, and can play this so well that it might offer concerts to the public, as you would say.
I love, Cassie, I love that you got to see Carlos Santana. That would have been one of the greatest things for me to, because I love Carlos Santana. I love he's such a great musician. And he's from out here in the Bay Area as well, or California. That would have been bad. That would have been, I would love to see, I would have loved to have in the day see Joe Satriani and Carlos Santana. That would have been really rocking cool, right? John Bon Jovi's amazing. The things that he's done. Rick said I saw Bon Jovi in '88. That would have been amazing. Like I said, I didn't get to see Bon Jovi either, but that would have been amazing. Yeah, I know, right? Cassie said he was amazing. Oh, I bet. Oh, man, I've watched his concerts. Love that. Love watching his just watching him play the guitar, and he brings so much of that salsa, Latino flavor to the music, that he's like the king of Latin music, and just did so much for the Latin culture in the United States and around the world, continuing with, like, say, Desi Arnaz did, and Desi Arnaz Jr. after that, and other Hispanics around the world to this day. You know what I mean? Oh, wow, that's crazy. Okay, let's continue with Raw.
In other words, although it is true that each true color...
Hi, Joanne. Sorry, I didn't see you until you said hi. Right. So somebody posted up and it popped up, and I see Joanne right there. Hi. All right, let's continue.
Vehicle is available. Potentially there is skill and discipline needed in order to avail the self of the more advanced or lighter vehicles. 54.7 Questioner. Now, I have made these statements just to get to the basic question I wish to ask. It is a difficult question to ask. We have, coming from the sub-look...
Right, energy, frequency, and vibration, and you're in that portion of the book. So learning about that. That is the secret to the universe. Secret to the universe. Nikola Tesla even said it. If you want to know the secret of the universe, then you need to understand energy, frequency, and vibration. Think in terms, his quote was, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Yeah, that's some knowledge that you need to learn. If you couple that, learning about that, with balancing the chakras, the Kundalini energy, and the Christ oil, that's the majority of the underlining message and overlining message of my book. And to balance all of that is the introduction. The entire book is the introduction to all of that knowledge. And then I'm going to further that with the book that I'm currently writing that'll be out in a couple of years, that's going to further that. But you should take a look at that. Here I have the book sitting here so I can hold it up, but I knew there was going to be, see how there's a glare on it because of the computer and the light in the background. That's why I put up the overlay as well. You should buy the book, take a look at that. If you don't already follow me, take a look at anywhere that you just Google it, whatever search engine you use, type in The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. And it's available worldwide right now, currently worldwide. Okay, let's continue here.
Logos we call our sun, intelligent energy, which then forms, and we'll take as an example a single sub-logos, which is a mind/body/spirit complex. This intelligent energy is somehow modulated or distorted, so that it ends up as a mind/body/spirit complex with certain distortions of personality that it is necessary for the mind/body/spirit complex or the mental portion of that complex to distort in order to conform once more precisely with the original intelligent energy. First, I want to know if my statement on that is correct, and, secondly, I want to know why this is the way that it is, if there is any answer other than the first distortion of the law of one for this. Ra, I am Ra. This statement is substantial.
Yeah, Cassie, I agree. I would have loved to have seen Pink Floyd live. Big Pink Floyd fan from when I was a kid. Sublime, again. You would never be able to see the two of them together. Well, you could, because even though Pink Floyd, like Roger Waters, wasn't with the band, he left. But you could, because they're old enough to where they could still be on stage. But yeah, that would be pretty badass. All right, let's continue with Pink Floyd. They were way ahead of their time with their lyrics, what their songs were about. They were very awake and saw the world for what it truly was. And sang about it. And most people didn't catch that right away about them. They were all too busy being high and being psychedelic with them because they were pretty psychedelic. But that, most people woke up to that. When I was exposed to them as a preteen, young teen, or, like 12 or 13, you know what I mean? I was like, wow, these guys are really awake. What's going on here? And at that time, because, being unveiled, you go, there's some of these people out there, Queen, again, their songs, most people don't realize how awake their songs were. Not quite as awake as Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd was one of the most awake anti-establishment, anti-rich oligarchs running the place than most people were, especially for when they came out, like Judas Priest was, and everyone thought they were satanic. And all their songs are completely opposite of what everybody thinks. And because they understood who Judas Priest was, who Judas was, and that he got a bad rap, and then so they called the band Judas Priest, and everyone's like, oh, they're satanic because they're Judas, and I'm like no, it was the priest Judas. They're telling you that Judas was the most holy of all of them. And that's why he never once did they hold up an upside down cross, and never once did they hold up a pentagram. No one ever did that. Even when Rob Halford dressed up as a priest, he wore the outfit and had a right side up cross hanging off of him. The whole purpose of this, you should listen to their lyrics of their songs. It's anti-establishment and trying to tell you there's this group of people worldwide that are trying to take away information from the world. Look at Another Thing Coming. Look at some of their older songs. There's most of their album is about being against the establishment and realizing Electric Eye from Screaming for Vengeance, and the song Screaming for Vengeance, and the whole idea of their albums and Defenders of the Faith, all their albums back in the day, even coming to now, was always never satanic. Nothing did they ever say was the devil and 666, nothing. And so you have to look into these bands a little bit more clearly minded when you listen to the words and look up what they're talking about. And then you'll start realizing something different. They're trying to tell you the same information that I'm telling you in my book, same information. They were doing it through rock and roll, heavy metal. And people were, they're cool, man. They're evil. No, completely the opposite.
Correct. If you will penetrate the nature of the first distortion in its application of self-knowing self, you may begin to distinguish the hallmark of an infinite creator, variety. Were there no potentials for misunderstanding and, therefore, understanding, there would be no experience. 54.8 Questioner. Okay. Once a mind/body/spirit complex becomes aware of this process, it then decides that in order to have the abilities, the full abilities of the creation and the creator of which it is a small part yet at the same time, in order to have the abilities that go with the entire creation, it is necessary to reunite its thinking or reharmonize its thinking with the original creative thought in precise vibration or frequency of vibration, I will say. In order to do this, it is necessary to discipline the personality so that it precisely conforms to the original thought or original vibration, and this is broken into 7 areas of discipline, each corresponding to one of the colors of the spectrum.
Okay, so literally, I'm going to rewind this a little bit, right? Because I was distracting everybody talking about concerts and putting the stuff up on the screen. Those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast, you didn't see any of those visuals, so I'm sure you guys were catching on to what Raw's talking about here. Let me back this up just a little bit because it's actually Sex Pistols. Yeah, bro. Peter, Sex Pistols, right? Love that band too. They spawned over here in America the entire culture of that type of music that I loved. I was in a band called FWG for a minute, and we were all about that same type of rock and roll that the Sex Pistols had. We called it, what did we call it over here? It was before grunge. I can't remember what we called it. It's been so long ago, but yeah, man. Sex Pistols were the stuff. Okay, let me back this up here, right here. Let me go here, and I'm going to back it up just a little bit and listen to this description here, because this is talking about opening up and expanding your consciousness to literally start getting into tune with the original thought, the original creation, infinite wisdom, infinite creative ability. Let's play this here.
For misunderstanding and, therefore, understanding, there would be no experience. 54.8 Questioner. Okay. Once a mind/body/spirit complex becomes aware of this process, it then decides that in order to have the abilities, the full abilities of the creation and the creator of which it is a small part, yet at the same time, all of, in order to have the abilities that go with the entire creation, it is necessary to reunite its thinking or reharmonize its thinking with the original creative thought in precise vibration or frequency of vibration.
Now, over here in America, Peter, it became grunge. It was called punk rock. And it was in the style of the Sex Pistols, and that was through the late 80s or the 80s through the 90s into the 2000s, and then they started calling it grunge in the 90s. And grunge was a softer, slower version of the Sex Pistols, a really fast-paced punk. I know because I'm a punk fan, and I actually did. If you go back in my archives far enough back to when I first started Orion Rising, you'll see me on Saturdays do a punk rock Saturday, and I played pirate radio and played punk rock music for like 2 hours on every Saturday, and I did that for about 4 weeks, and then moved on to some other stuff. But yeah, I love, a big punk fan, love that, and that turned into grunge, and I don't know what they call it today, but yeah. All right, let's continue with what Raw's saying here, and I'm going to stay on point, okay?
And I will say, in order to do this, it is necessary to discipline the personality so that it precisely conforms to the original thought or original vibration, and this is broken into 7 areas of discipline, each corresponding to one of the colors of the spectrum. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This statement, though correct, bears great potential for being misunderstood. The precision with which each energy center matches the original thought lies not in the systematic placement of each energy nexus, but rather in the fluid and plastic placement of the balanced blending of these energy centers in such a way that intelligent energy is able to channel itself with minimal distortion. The mind/body/spirit complex is not a machine. It is rather what you might call a tone poem. 54.9 Questioner. Do all mind/body/spirit complexes in the entire creation have the 7 energy centers once they have reached full development, or development to the point where they can have 7 energy centers? Ra, I am Ra. These energy centers are in potential in macro COSM from the beginning of creation by the logos. Coming out of timelessness, all is prepared. This is so of the infinite creation. 54.10.
See, this is why I backed up, right? And now it's going to get even more descriptive. So literally, you need to realize that Dawn's trying to figure out how the chakras work, and whether people can just balance one. Yes, but it can be misunderstood because you're supposed to balance them all, and in conjunction with one another. But you need to focus on each one so that you can get it to the proper place and vibration, energy, frequency, vibration. This is why I loved that. That was that Denise that brought that up. That was Denise that brought that up. The energy, frequency, vibration, and because all of your chakras are threefold. This is why you have the wheel within wheels. Okay, wheels within wheels, because there are 3. There are three wheels, and they spin at opposite angles to each other because they're not the identical energy frequency. Because one is energy, one is frequency, and one is a vibration, but they make up the totality. So they are a torus, and they're just like the human condition, where we have the lower three chakras, the heart chakra, and the upper three chakras, and that makes the Vesica Pisces, which from the top down is the torus, with the center point, 0 point, being your heart chakra, which is 9, which is everything and nothing, all the beginning and the end. That is the hex boson. That is the I am the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. Everything and nothing. That is creation. That is creative ability. The creation comes from the heart through love only. The mind can be deceptive with the knowledge that is here. The ego still works. The thinking mind still works. So if you don't move above that area, and with love, which comes from the heart, then you will try to use that knowledge for evil. This is the lesson that was being taught to you in the Lord of the Rings, with the one ring to control them all. The one ring to control them all was the knowledge of the controlling of the ego. And so you can either ignore the knowledge that you can gain from that, or think, I can use this to better the earth, and it will consume you, because ultimate power consumes always, especially in the physical. And this is why those people like Galadriel and the wizard Gandalf, they were afraid, because they knew the ramifications of grabbing a hold of that ring and how much it worked on your ego and got into your head. So the whole lesson was to overcome that urge to be able to do that in the lower beings like the humans, because they're just barely conscious of themselves. They're just barely self-conscious in their abilities, would have a hard time overcoming that. And it took somebody that ran in service to others from the heart. And that was the lesson in Return of the King, that Strider, when he had to transition into becoming the king and becoming himself again, and being Aragorn instead of Strider. Strider was a physical plane character that he had to play, and was a Dunedain ranger. And but the training that he got from that made him more of a holy warrior than he realized, and he thought his DNA would make him become greedy like his grandfather or great-grandfather. And his wife had to warn him. I talked about this last week. And his wife had to tell him, no, you're not those people because of your DNA. You're an individual. And all the way up until he, at the final battle there at the castle, even Gandalf, who was now Gandalf the White, was concerned when he heard what Aragorn was hearing, to where the One Ring was calling to him, and the evil was calling to him to try and get him to fall under that spell. And you see that playing out in the movie. If you read the books, it was more evident, but if you see it in the movie, you can see that Gandalf the White looks at Aragorn, and Aragorn starts walking forward, and then turns around and looks at Gandalf and says, "For Frodo," and then turns and attacks, and everybody goes with him, and they won the day. But you don't know that right then if you've never seen the movie, and I just gave you a spoiler alert. So if you didn't see the movie, then or that series, then I just kind of spoiled that last scene for you. But it wasn't the last scene of the movie, but the scene with that. So the entire lesson that is being taught to you in all of those books, which was only 2, but they split one into a third book, and they split it into 4 movies. Should have really been 5 movies. Because there was one, the one before that should have been 2 movies as well. The Lord of the Rings should have been 2 movies, as well as the last book being 2 movies. Anyways, he wanted to split it into 4, and his family kept it the first one and then put the second one as 1, and he wanted to split that into 2. And they said no, and it was like of way too many pages. I read it anyways when I was a kid, but the whole entire episode was being set in this ancient time, but it was about now. It was about nuclear weapons and one ring to rule them all, one person having the ability to have all that mass destruction at their fingertips, and controlling that knowledge and controlling all of the people around them, which is what was happening at the time, still is, with these oligarchs who have nuclear weapons controlling the world by the threat of and the governments, and keeping them all in line, one ring to rule them all. And so they all have the knowledge, right, that the evil people possess, but they have something lorded over them. They have control of that one ring, which in the reality of things would be the film footage of these people when they pump them into, the Illuminati or the Anunnaki or whatever you want to call them. When you hear these people talking about the secret society where they rape and murder and eat children, which a lot of you are like, that's just insane, I'm not listening anymore, because it's so hideous. You don't want to think that people are actually doing it. And they film that. Or when you're, on Epstein's Island or plane, when you're having sex with 10, 12, and 14-year-old girls, and they film it and blackmail you into doing what they want you to do for the rest of your career. But they also tell you, if you do what we tell you to do, we'll make you powerful. And this is literally what that's about. It was about that in the setting of the 11th century or 10th century, okay, in a place, in a different reality, so that they would get it past censors and people wouldn't say, because if they made that movie about the 20th century or even about the 19th or 18th century, the people, the oligarchs that are alive now would have never let that get past censors. The fact that they made it this fictitious world, just like they did with Star Wars, in a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, and then it's set in the futuristic. The story was identical, the same story with that was the same allegory of the Lord of the Rings was the idea of the Star Wars and the Jedi, and it's being taught to you again. It's the same parable. It's just another parable of the same story, the same allegory. So this is Ra's talking about this here, and now what Ra's saying is, and you'll see this as we get into the chakras, and I'll let it play, is that the balancing of the chakras and the connection to the higher self and the one creator self. And now I tell you this, and this is why I waited this long, because I wanted to preface with all of that knowledge I just gave you, and then move into what I talk about in my book and my next book, that the prophecies that everyone thinks is a prophecy in all these Bibles isn't telling you what's going to happen in the future, which is what everybody thinks, is that, in the future, it's going to tell how the devil is going to be defeated by the Antichrist is going to be defeated by the forces of good around the world in the 3rd or 4th or 5th World War. Okay. And that's not what the prophecies are about. The prophecies are about how that is going to happen by you going within yourself, balancing your chakras, which we're all going to talk about right here, balancing the chakras and getting it, reaching up that 51% up to the creator of the universe, and becoming in concert with, blending with the knowledge, the infinite wisdom, the infinite knowledge of the universe, returning to the original thought and knowing what that original thought was from the original infinite thought of the universe. And you can access that, every single person. That is overcoming the one ring, which is the flesh, and everything that entails. That is overcoming the eating of the tree of life when you're not supposed to. That is overcoming this place and learning how to get out of this matrix. And by doing that, if everyone has that knowledge on the earth, this is what my book is about, is that because this is what people have been trying to tell you throughout all of time, not just the Law of One by Ra and the LL Research Group, not just by Jesus, not just by Muhammad. Not everyone is telling you the same story, not because they copied it all from another scroll that's older that we have to go and find and spend our whole entire life never studying what all these people said and keep digging for another scroll. So when we find it, it says the same thing, throw that away and go, well, we got to find where that one came from now. And because that's what people have been doing on this planet for the last 1,500 years. Nobody is studying what's right in front of you. You're cutting down the trees looking for the forest, and you keep annihilating the forest. And then you go, well, we got to go find the other forest. There's one over there on the other side of that clearing. Let's go over there. Cut those trees down so I can see past these damn trees to find where the whole forest is. Then you get to the other side of that forest, and there's no trees there. And you look around and go, there's another one way over there. Let's go. And you run over there and start cutting the trees down. Nobody's reading the tree rings. Nobody's reading the story that forest is trying to tell you. everybody's running away from that and trying to find the original story. And all that anyone has ever found is the same story. It's not something that has been copied because somebody found that scroll. It is something that all of you on the earth can access. And this is what Ra is talking about right here. Let's continue that. So don't listen to me. Assume I don't know what I'm talking about. And let's go back 40 years and hear the best that Ra can give you of the same knowledge that I just told you, because Ra couldn't tell you in the way that I just told you 40 years ago, because you would have already changed the channel if you haven't already, because of me trying to tell you this information in modern terms, not 40-year-old terms. But let's continue here with the chakras and what Ra's talking about.
Questioner. Then I will assume that the Creator, in its intelligent appraisal of a way of knowing itself, created the concept of the 7 areas of knowing. Is this correct?
Wait, I want to address, before I go, you listen to that thing right there. I want to address what Cassie just said. She said, I had a major download out of nowhere last week, and holy shit, it was an elaborate description of the energy centers. And Leo said the symbol that I wrote down, yes, the symbol that I wrote down was a new symbol that would connect people to the truth. Wait till she actually gets this drawn up, guys. And because as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's explaining things in a way that these people need to know right now. I'm not good at visualizing and drawing pictures like that, but it came to Cassie and she drew it. And I was like, wow, I can use words, but that's pretty badass. I'm like, you need to draw this up and give it color if it's supposed to have color, and make this into an image, because you're going to be selling t-shirts and coffee cups and hats and putting it out to the entire world. So yeah, as soon as I saw her say that, I'm like, gotta put that up on the screen and talk about that. So look forward to that in the future, because you'll see what I'm talking about. It's an activation that when she gets done with it, when you see it, you're going to go, what is that? And you're going to be drawn to it. It's just like when I tell people, and I'll get back to Ra. It's just like when I tell people that if you look, let's use that ideology of, sorry, the television is showing a big giant bulldozing tractor. I don't know what it's doing. It's firefighters trying to fight a fire, and it's driving up the street. I don't know if you can hear that squealing. It's driving up the street by the guy who's on the news talking about the firefighters, and that thing's screaming. And I was like, what is going on outside? And I looked at the television in the living room, and I see this big tractor with his tank tracks going by the cameraman. He's trying to give him a report on the fire, and that thing's screaming bloody murder because they need to oil the freaking tracks. Anyway. So now let me get back on track of what I was talking about. So literally, the information that Ra is telling you is about that and balancing the chakras so that you can then start to ascend. And Ra couldn't do that 40 years ago as well, because 40 years ago, the people of this earth were nowhere near where we are now. We have exponentially moved forward and far more awake than we were 40 years ago. It's almost like the dark ages 40 years ago compared to now. Okay. So Cassie got this vision and started writing it down, and then was drawing words that were coinciding with the areas. And she showed me a picture of it, and I was like, dude, this is an activation that is going to, and this is where I was getting with that. I wanted to back up a little bit in case I spent so much time talking about the screaming. That is akin to, and maybe even larger than, when I tell people, let's get back to where people say, well, the oldest information is more important. So whoever has the oldest information. So now let's go to the Corpus Hermeticum, which is the oldest scroll, older than the Mesopotamian scroll. That one's based on the Akkadian scroll. And that scroll is based on the Egyptian scroll. And the only copy of it, the Egyptian scroll, is missing. So the copy of it that we have that everybody's agreed came from the Egyptians, and the Egyptians say it came from an older civilization, is called the Corpus Hermeticus. That's what they found buried at the statue of Hermes, between Hermes's feet. That Hermes Trismegistus had a copy of that, and they buried a copy of that with him when they have a statue. And I don't remember where the statue was, somewhere over there, Luxor or somewhere over there. Don't quote me on Luxor. So that's the oldest. And in there, Thoth, however you know it being told is the name, the Atlantean, is telling you about the rulers of the chakras and their names. And I have said this to people and watched those people who are half awake or are fully awake
in their mindset of what it changes in them when you know this. We think of the chakras as the red ray root chakra is number 1, going through the 7 chakras to the 7th chakra, which is the crown chakra. And I always said, I don't think it's that way. And I never had any proof of anyone saying this until I read the Corpus Hermeticus. And then I said, or Corpus Hermeticum. And then I said, there you go. Here it is from the oldest scroll that we have found so far that came from Thoth the Atlantean. It was that the Egyptians got a hold of. And he said that the names of these rulers of the 7 archetypes, chakras, of the humans, their names are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. There are 7 of them. The first red ray root chakra is the 3. That makes the heart chakra the 6 and the crown chakra the 9. 3, 6, and 9. Okay? The fact that that information was taken from the earth and nobody knew that, so that when everybody came up with the description of the chakras around the world, they called the red ray root chakra number 1, was allowed by the oligarchs of this world, because for you to know the balance of 3, 6, and 9, and what that means to know that the red ray root chakra, being nature, is 3, and the heart chakra is 6, where you reside, and the crown chakra is 9, where intelligent infinity resides. That literally, when you shift that way and pull it down to where it's 3, 6, and 9, is an activation for anyone who knows anything about their chakras, and it changes the way your energy lines up with you and the universe. Because then energy, frequency, and vibration becomes 3, 6, and 9. And then when you couple that with, say, the charm of making, which is Anal Nathrak, Uthva Spethud, Dothiel Dienve, which means all that is nature, 3, and of time space, 6, heed my intention, 9. Do you understand that? So everyone who knew about this, who was a druid, a Wiccan, a druid from Europe, knows about 3, 6, and 9. Everyone around the universe knows about 3, 6, and 9. Everybody in the spiritual world knows about that. But when you have the chakras and we go 1 through 7, it changes the perspective of the vibration of those of the placement of those vibrations, and it puts them off kilter so that you will never line up your chakras properly, mentally, physically, and spiritually, balancing them. And in mathematics, they were onto it. Even Pythagoras, which was 5,500 years ago, was onto 3, 6, and 9, but they didn't discover all of the frequencies because they started at 1 and went through, and they were missing 3 of them. And guess which 3 they were missing? In 1948, when the scientific community and the oligarchs changed everything to get your instruments to balance to C, was when they discovered the actual frequencies that were missing throughout all of time on purpose. And when they did, I talk about this in my book. I think I mentioned in this book, but I talk about it more in the next book. And those 3 frequencies that they didn't rediscover until 1948 were the actual harmonic resonance of 3, 6, and 9. The 3 most vital resonance frequencies were omitted from all of the knowledge around the world until 1948. And when those were discovered in 1948, they immediately hid them and changed the frequency to tune all instruments worldwide from that day until this to C. And C is not the frequency of the heart chakra, which is 6. It's above the heart chakra. Okay, the actual frequency for the heart chakra is G major or G. Okay, that's the beautiful frequency that everybody, if you tune an instrument to G or G major or even G minor, in that 3 zone frequency, you find that it's more harmonic than C, and C is a flat. That's why they call it C flat. It is a flat. Okay, G flat is the dead center of G, right? But G major is the actual frequency. It's literally C flat, C minor, G major. So it's literally 3 places below where it is now, and that is the harmonic resonance. That is the ohm resonance, the perfect resonance. Okay, it's G major or G, or somewhere in between those two. Okay, let's continue with Ra. Okay.
Ra, I am Ra. This is partially incorrect. The logos creates light. The nature of this light thus creates the nature of the catalytic and energetic levels of experience in the creation. Thus it is that the highest of all honor/duties, that given to those of the next octave, is the supervision of light in its manifestations during the experiential times, if you will, of your cycles. 54.11 Questioner, I will make another statement. The mind/body/spirit complex may choose, because of the first distortion, a mental configuration that is sufficiently displaced from the configuration of the intelligent energy in a particular frequency or color of INS-teaming energy so as to block a portion of INS-teaming energy in that particular frequency or color. Is this statement correct? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. 54.12 Questioner, this question may be no good, but I'll ask it. Can you give me an idea of the maximum percentage of this energy it's possible to block in any one color, or does that make any sense? Ra, I am Ra. There may be, in an entity's pattern of INS-teaming energy, a complete blockage in any energy or color or combination of energies or colors. 54.13
Right before he gets into that question, Cassie said, Leo keeps telling me I need to share more, laugh out loud, but it's hard because I don't want it to sound like it's an ego thing. That's the problem that we have is people try to say that about me. He's all ego. And if you know me, you guys know that I'm not. But when you sound confident, people who are intimidated by you, jealous of you, or egoic themselves will immediately go, that's all ego. That person's ego. Anybody that has to point out that somebody is ego, that person's ego, that person's ego, that person's ego. Why is it that they're seeing everybody's ego? Why is it that they feel that they are motivated to have to tell you who is egoic? Because they're ego. Do you see? And they feel inferior in some way, and they have to point it out and lash out. That person's all ego. And so anybody who says that, like if I'm talking and somebody says, that guy's a know-it-all, I'm out of here. I've had that happen before. That person was jealous or intimidated by something that I said and was focused from the ego standpoint, and their ego was bruised because I talk with confidence. That's the problem that we need to get over. If you're not coming truly from a place where you think you're the shit and you think that you're the best thing and you have the only person that has all the knowledge, yeah, that's ego. But if you're not coming from that place, and that you're coming from a place of I'm trying to help people and I'm trying to give information, and that you know the difference. You have to allow people to make up their own mind. You can't stifle yourself from telling the world information because you're be concerned that they're going to think that you're ego. Because it doesn't matter if you come from a place of non-ego and you try to tell the world anything that's good for them, someone is going to claim that you're ego and that you're lying and that you made it all up. Always. So you have to get past that and say, am I ego? I know that I'm not. I'm not coming from a place of evil. I am in service to others, not in service to self. So my motivation isn't I'm just trying to tell the world that I'm the only person who has all the knowledge and you have to give me all your money and follow me or you won't get any of this knowledge. I'm the one that has to teach them because I'm the gatekeeper or the key master, and I'm the only one who can tell people. Like, say, for instance, Joe Biden, when he said, I have to run for president before they kicked him out, he says, I am the only one who can beat Donald Trump. I am the only one who is keeping the United Nations together. Guess what? Without him, the world's going to go on. And Donald Trump, if you hear him say anything like that, I am the one that has to do this. Guess what? The world is going to be here long after Donald Trump is dead. The world is going to be here long after I am dead. The world is going to be here long after everyone is dead. And anyone who believes, because there's a group of people on the planet who believe that this entire endeavor is happening only for them. And when they die, all of this goes away. Iron Maiden, the band back in the 80s, wrote a song about that. That the only reason that all of you exist was for me. And when I die, all around me will be laid to waste. There are people who believe that.
And I'm like, no one's even going to remember you when you die, bro. Okay. The world's going to go on without you. This reality is going to go on without you. No one person is if they disappear, well, this entire reality disappear except for the creator itself. And the creator itself can't die because the creator is immortal. Okay. So anybody else that's ego, if they think that. So my point is, and this is what I try to teach everybody, you have to get over yourself because your ego tries to scare you into not doing it because it doesn't want you to become wise enough and important enough in your own mind to ignore it. So it tries to either tell you you're the greatest on the face of the earth and get you full of yourself and stay living in the flesh and try to get everybody to like you, love you, click on your shit and pay you all kinds of money so that they can pat you on the back. Or when you start getting into spirituality to where your motivation and goal is to reach the place where the ego can't reach you and the mind can't reach you, the ego will give you every doubt it can throw in front of you to make you afraid and try to distract you away from doing that because it does not want to die. It does not want to go away. It does not want to be ignored. Its entire endeavor, that part of you, is designed to try and keep you distracted. You are your worst nightmare and your worst enemy. So I always try to tell everybody and teach everybody that as long as you're coming from the right place and you don't think you're the end all, the be all, and you come from that place of, I can't make anybody believe anything. The only thing I can do is give them the tools. And you guys have to decide what you want to do with them. So you either come from the standpoint of being humble or you don't. But you're always going to run the risk of a quarter of the population to a half of the population of the planet thinking that you're all ego and that you made that crap up until they learn otherwise, until they actually grow up to be able to see things as an adult. That is how they're going to look at anybody who has an authoritative figure, because that's how they look at their mom and dad. That's how they look at everybody in their life that is an authoritative figure, is that person. They just think they know everything. I know more than they do. Well, if you did, then why aren't you telling people what they're telling people? Because I don't want to talk about that because that's stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. Oh, all right. Right. Those are the same people that when you say to them, so prove me wrong, tell me where I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm talking about. Those are the same people that will instantly lash out in anger at you, start cussing at you and start attacking you personally. And that's ego. That's the mind of a child speaking now to you. So if you're not doing that to other people when they say you're all ego, if you find yourself lashing out at a person who says that in a crowd or on a chat, then they might be right because your ego got bruised and you allowed that to happen and now you're lashing out back at them. Okay. But if somebody says to you, you're all ego, and you go, oh, okay, you told me, you got everybody convinced that I don't know what I'm talking about. Have a nice day. Or you say, really? So what exactly is the right answer then? Pray tell. Because if you know everything and I don't know anything, tell me where I'm wrong. And usually you'll find, just like that woman I talked about at the beginning of the show, I said, so what you're trying to say is that white Republican men are not allowing women to vote in these red states, or they're forcing them to vote against their own judgment so they can outlaw abortion in those red states, and that all the women there are not having a say. And she said, that's not what I'm saying. Don't you gaslight me and try to make any attempt to gaslight me and try to get me to believe that that's what's going on is just untrue. All I'm saying is that some of the Republicans in the Congress in those states are passing laws without letting anyone vote on it. And I'm like, isn't that what I just said that you were thinking? Don't tell me that what I'm thinking, because I wasn't thinking that men were not allowing women to vote. What they're doing is they were changing the law and not allowing women to vote on it. That was like when Donald Trump came up with the slogan, Make America Great Again, and Joe Biden came up with his slogan of Build Back Better, which doesn't mean the same thing. Make America Great Again. Build back better. Make America great again. And somehow nobody in that side of the religion saw that as redundancy. Well, we use different words, but you're saying the same thing. What is the definition of Build Back Better? Isn't that make America the way it was, or better than it was, or better than it is? Make America great again means make America better than it is now. Again, build back, meaning do again what make America the way it was before. Make America great again, make America the way it was before. So they mean the same thing, they're just different words. Do you see? So, but they're still using that same slogan. And they're like, well, Donald Trump stole it. No, he came up with that slogan 4 years before you started your slogan. He came up with that slogan in 2016. He just kept it in 2020. And then you started saying Build Back Better somewhere in 2020. So if anything, you guys copied him and just said, we're going to change the words. That's kind of like the 5-pointed star with a circle around it. That's called the pentacle with the point facing up. And Satanism taking that symbol and turning it upside down and calling it a pentagram and saying it's evil, and it's completely different because it's the opposite of that one. And then also taking the right side up and cross that Jesus was on right there. Okay. And back here where there's a crucifix with Jesus on it, or another little cross. I can't tell without my glasses on. And that cross, turning it upside down and claiming that for your religion. That's just perverting what they said. You didn't come up with something original. Same thing as my point with the Democrats coming up with a slogan that meant the same words, but said with different words. But that's what they do with the progressives around the world, because equality isn't equality until equity is in play. Do you see my point? So ego thinks that way. Because they have no creative abilities, getting back to the chakras, they can't create. So they steal from other things and just pervert it. They steal it outright and make money off of it, or they pervert it to try and make it their own, but they can't come up with anything new because the evil people do not have the ability to create. They only have the ability to corrupt and control and destroy all negative things. Creation is a positive thing. They can't create anything. And I tell you this, look around the world and look at every single person who you know is evil or think is evil, and they claim they created something. And if you look into their past, you'll find out they bought it, stole it, or something else. They didn't create it themselves. Bill Gates did not create Windows program. That was stolen from Apple, and they just took it from their program, changed a few things so the look was slightly different, and got it on the market before Apple did. And they called it Windows. Okay? They stole it. There's a movie made about it where what's his name? Anthony Michael Hall plays Bill Gates. Okay? You can watch that movie. Stole it. So you have to realize that with all people in the world, Mark Zuckerberg got sued by his college roommate who created the algorithm that is now Facebook. He said that when Mark Zuckerberg first stole it from him and created Facebook and went and took it from him. And then he sued him. And then he got real quiet about it, which means Mark Zuckerberg paid him all kinds of money and paid him to shut up with a non-disclosure agreement, because now that guy's gone off the face of the earth. He was either killed or he's got all kinds of money. He doesn't care because Mark Zuckerberg gave him cash and shut him up. But that was in court. Okay? Mark Zuckerberg stole it from him. It's the only reason that guy got quiet. He sued him and didn't lose. If he'd have lost, Mark Zuckerberg and the whole world would have been telling everybody, see, I beat that guy. I didn't steal him. That went away, which means there was a non-disclosure agreement, which means that guy won the case and had to sign a non-disclosure agreement for the $100 million or $200 million that he got from Mark Zuckerberg to shut up. Paid him off. Look it up. Okay? So you will find that all people who are ego never create anything because they cannot. So if you're coming from a place of creation and being in service to others, and this is what Raw's talking about right here, and you'll hear that when I shut up and start playing it again. Don't worry about that stuff. You got to get over that. That's your ego trying to quiet you into not doing it. All of us have to get over that and stop listening to that and start doing from the heart, and stop being angry at the world. There's no reason to be angry at the world. You're only angry at the world because you're mad at the world because the world has triggered your ego, and you are blaming the world for your problems. I didn't do anything. It's always someone else that's doing it all to me. I haven't made the decision to be an alcoholic. I haven't made the decision to be on drugs. I haven't made the decision to be mean and nasty and cantankerous and can't get along with anybody and fight with everybody when I'm drinking or when I'm on drugs or both or all of the above. I'm not the one. I'm the one. I don't want to work for those people. I don't want to get a job there because I'm not working for the man. I'm not working for the establishment. Therefore, I'm ass out. Or every time I have one step forward, it's two steps back. That whole thought process is keeping you where you are, because instead of looking at yourself and saying, I want to better myself, I don't want to be this way anymore. I would rather like myself to where I was happy. What is making me not happy? You have to look within yourself and find that information as to why I'm not happy. Is it me? Is it something I'm doing to myself? You have to be objective with yourself and not go, nope, it's always somebody else. Because eventually when you keep blaming the entire world for it and all the world leaves you and you're still by yourself, you're going to find that you're sitting in your own shit. And then you're in that song from Alice in Chains, I'm the man in the box sitting in my shit. Won't you come save me? Right? You know the song, right? And if you don't, look up Alice in Chains and look up that song. I'm the man in the box, right? Sitting in my shit. I'm the dog who gets beat. Won't you come save me? And so the entire thing is a conversation that's happening between him. The guys that are singing the chorus are his ego. And the ego is saying things like, when they're saying, deny your maker, right? And then he's saying, feed my eyes, physical. And they're saying, now you sew them shut. Or he says, now you sew them shut. Because the only way that you can get out of the physical is to not to be in the physical. You have to be objective with yourself. Stand up, get yourself out of that box. Stop allowing people to beat you. Stop beating yourself up. Get out of the box and move out into the world and expand your consciousness. So if you're coming from a place of love, don't worry about that. Because you have to remember that 90% of the population of this earth isn't awake enough to not know that you're not ego. So they're going to accuse you of ego always. You have to just accept that and just let it roll off of you. Don't let it affect your ego. Just do what you're going to do and love people. And that's what Jesus was trying to say, right? Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. You have to love them for who they are, even though you know that they have no idea what they're doing. And how do you do all of that? Energy, frequency, and vibration, and balance your chakras. Let's listen in.
Questioner. Okay. Then I assume that the first distortion is the, shall I say, motivator or what allows this blockage. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. We wish no quibbling but prefer to avoid the use of terms such as the verb, to allow. Free will does not allow, nor would predetermination disallow, experiential distortions. Rather, the law of confusion offers a free reach for the energies of each mind/body/spirit complex. The verb, to allow, would be considered pejorative in that it...
Right, and you know what, Bo? You're absolutely right. Bo said some of these Christians on my Facebook will never listen to anything of this or any of this information. They think that it's all the devil's work, and it's quite the opposite. Absolutely, but what you have to learn. Okay, let's go to the Christian teaching. Jesus taught that if you go to a city and you go there and you start trying to preach the good word, now, if you are talking to a crowd of people or you're on your Facebook, Bo, and you're trying to give information and they say that you're the devil and they don't believe you, Jesus said, dust your sandals off, dust the dust off of your sandals, wash your feet and be done with them and move to the next city. That is literally not saying to like delete your Facebook page and open a new one. That means let them think what they're going to think and just ignore them, because they're going to think that anyway. That's the whole moral of what I was saying earlier. So when you get to that point, you have to realize when you're talking to someone, this person's not going to get what I'm saying at all, because people tell that about me. They say, I am possessed by the devil. I have 4 religious titles in 4 different religions. Okay. Priestly titles in 4 different religions. And I have people in Christianity saying that I have been
duped by the devil and that I'm a demon or possessed by the devil or a demon and I'm going to lead everyone to hell. Because that's the brainwashing that they get from the establishment to keep them from ever ascending. You have to realize that, Bo. So those people you can't convince. There are some people that will never be ready to hear what you have to say. You have to allow them to do that, allow them to have that, because that's where they are. No matter what you say to them, let's go back now to 5,500 years ago. And Socrates said, and you should keep this in mind every time you speak in front of people or to people, Bo, I cannot convince anyone of anything. The only thing that I can hope to do is to get people to start thinking for themselves. That's it. So when you're speaking to somebody, don't argue with them when they go, you're the devil, you're evil. Okay, buddy, have a nice day. To you, I am the devil. Right? Now let's go to Merlin and Merlin's teaching. Okay? In the Sword and the Stone, when Arthur's sister, when she imprisoned Merlin to get the charm of making, and she imprisoned him, he was stuck there physically, so he had to mentally go and communicate with Arthur. So he went into their dreams, Arthur and all of his men before the battle, in their dreams. And Arthur woke up in his dream and he was talking to Merlin, and he said, Merlin, are you a dream? Is this just a dream? This lesson was, do I believe you or do I think that you're some demon or what? Merlin's response, and this is part of the 21 lessons of Merlin. Merlin, and I'm a Merlin. Merlin's response to him was, he looked at Arthur and he says, I am a dream to some and a nightmare to others. And then he disappeared. That whole entire endeavor was, it depends on how you see me and my message. If you see me as your friend and confidant and I'm giving you information that is not going to harm you, you will see me as a dream. But if I offend your ego or your conditioning, you're going to see me as evil and a nightmare. And that is what he didn't answer the question. But he knew that the teaching, because if you think about that, in the movie from 1982 of Excalibur, it starts up when you think that Merlin meets Arthur when Arthur is 14 years or 15 years of age. The truth is, he meets him when he's 9, and he's training him his entire life until he becomes the king. So he was getting Merlin training. So he knew Arthur realized, but Merlin knew Arthur knew the answer to it. So when he was asking that question, is this just a dream? Are you just a dream, Merlin? He said, I'm a dream to some and a nightmare to others. And then lightning struck and he disappeared. Because depending on how you look at it, if I offend your ego, you're going to think that I'm the devil. Do you see? So if you're of the flesh, I am going to be the devil. If you're of the spirit, you're going to see me as a dream. So you have to realize that, bro, and allow them to be that way. Don't try to argue with them. Because when you argue with somebody who is telling you that you're evil or that you're the devil, or telling people because their ego has been tripped, that person's all ego, that one's lying to you. The second you engage them, you sound just like them and people will tune you out. And that's the problem that you run into. And I did the same thing. All of us do until we stop. When they're doing that, you just have to allow them to do it. If you're in a place, that's why if I'm speaking in front of a crowd, that's why if I'm here and say, you start doing that to me here and you start yelling at me, I'll boot you out of the chat. Same thing. If you're in a crowd, there's security and they'll go over and go, okay, pal, time for you to go. Because you're just a protester. You're just there to yell and scream past everybody to disrupt the entire thing because you've decided that person doesn't need to be teaching anyone anything. Those people need to be removed and put them outside. Are they wrong? Everyone has to make their own mind up. So to defend yourself, and this is why when people say you don't defend yourself when people start talking shit about you, never. I don't. Someone talks shit about me, I'll say, prove it. And then we'll put you on the air. People like, you don't care when someone talks shit about you? They could spend a whole year talking shit about you. People who listen to that are going to, or hear it, are going to have to make a decision, their own. I'm not going to defend that. They either figure it out or they don't. So if they don't figure it out, they're going to go away from me and they're going to find someone else to follow. I encourage everyone to do that. There's the difference between ego and non-ego. I encourage everybody to prove me wrong, to not believe a word I say. I usually say that on my every show. Don't believe a word I've said. Go and look this up for yourself. Because when you're asking questions, you're going to do yourself more good than any words I can say to you. Why? Because I cannot convince anyone of anything. The only thing I can hope to do is to get you to start thinking for yourself. That is 5,500 years ago. A wise man named Socrates said that. Okay. And I agree with those words, and they're never more true than they are today or any other time. So Ra, again, and then I'll get back to Ra because we're going to start talking about balancing the chakras. Ra is literally speaking the same way. There is no question. And if you question and say Ra doesn't know what he's talking about, Ra is just the devil or the CIA. I had people tell me that about like the girls over in the Czech Republic. They're not actually talking to some extraterrestrial biological entity called Oli. They're talking to the CIA. And I'm like, really? So the CIA, you're telling me, because he was ex-military, he's a good man. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he was stupid. He really knows his shit. He has his own podcast now. But I said to him, so you're telling me that the CIA is actually monitoring the planet, trying to make contact with anyone who is, in fact, around the entire planet, clairvoyant enough to make contact with somebody in an attempt to make contact before they make contact with anyone who's going to tell them anything good, pretend to tell them good things so they can mislead them and tell them bad things to tell to the entire population of the earth. So how many people are in this secret organization in the CIA that are talking to people around the earth? Because there's more than 1 or 2 or 10 people that are clairvoyant that are trying to talk to people from outside the universe. So are you telling me that there's about 5 million or 1 billion Secret Service agents that have this machine that is able to communicate with people and usurp and get into people's heads and stop them from actually channeling someone with good energy and push them out of the way and override them so that they can only give people negative energy, and they give them some good energy or good information so that they believe that only the negative information, and there's nobody on this earth that in any way is communicating with anyone that is of service to others at all, and it's all the CIA. That's what you believe? And he was like, no. And that reminded me of the conversation with Jack Sparrow when he first showed up trying to steal the ship. And there was 2 inept guards standing over the ship, and they said, you can't go over there. And he said, I too, and fancy to do up in the castle, eh? And you guys didn't get over there. And he said to them, well, I had a ship, and it was called the Black Pearl. And he said, you don't have there's no such ship, and it doesn't exist. And the 2 of them were arguing about that. While they were arguing about that, Jack Sparrow walked by them and went and got on board the ship. And what were they talking about? And he said, so what you're saying, he says, the Black Pearl is not a real ship. And he said, yes, it is. The other guy said, yes, it is. I've seen it. You've seen a ship that is so evil that it has black sails, that is crewed by the damned, that is cursed by God, and that it sails and that they are so evil that hell itself spat them back out. And he goes, no. And he goes, that's because it doesn't exist. He goes, but I have seen a ship with black sails. Oh, and no ship that has black sails could be any other ship other than the most evil ship with the most evil captain that's crewed by the undead, that's crewed by the damned. And he was like, well, no. And he goes, that's why, because there's no ship and the Black Pearl doesn't exist. That's when he said that to me, that there is nobody that's communicating with anybody around from the entire planet that is able to communicate with anybody, because only the evil people are the ones. It reminded me of that and how silly that conversation was. And I said, are you hearing what you're saying? You're saying that the physical CIA has so many people in a machine or psychics that are so powerful that they can literally stop the entire human race from in any way talking to their higher self, guides, or God themselves. And that they're actually usurping that information and getting into their head and convincing them that they're good people. And that's the only communication that goes on this earth. Yet you don't see the American government owning the entire population of the planet. Why not? If you have that kind of ability, why is somebody that has that kind of ability and know-how isn't going, why don't we convince everybody to vote for this guy and make him czar or president for life. Why don't we convince everybody on the entire earth that we are the best country and that we should be in charge of all countries? Why is that not happening? Because if they had that ability, they have that ability. But that's not what's happening. And he was like, "Look, let's not be silly." Well, wait. So what you're saying is that some people can resist them then? And I'm like, you realize that annihilates your entire argument. Do you see? So when put under scrutiny, people who tend to, by logic, people who tend to say, you're all ego and you're the devil. Really? So demon then. Okay, so show me in history where someone has proven scientifically that a demon exists. Well, that's exactly what a demon would say. Oh, all right. So how do you know exactly what a demon would say? Where are you getting this information from? That's the only way that you want to talk to somebody. But when you do that, you still run the risk of sounding just as crazy as they are, or you get angry with them. So you got to let them go. You have to allow people to do what they're going to do. And if they want to, you just go, okay, bye, delete them, kick them out of the group. Sorry, guys, let's get back to what we were talking about. You can't leave those people there and fight them. And you can't keep posting things. If they post and then you answer them and you have this back and forth, because what happens is people who show up there to read whatever you were posting, they're going to read your argument and they're going to go, none of these people are awake. I'm out of here. And that's how you lose followers. No one's going to listen to you. So you have to move past that. You have to ignore it and move past it and be the adult. Adults in the room, that's like when someone says, I'm a grown-ass man. I'm a grown-ass woman. A grown-ass man or a grown-ass woman doesn't need to say that and never will. Only people who are not a grown-ass man says to anyone, I'm a grown-ass man. The fact that you're saying that should tell you you're not, because you feel the need to tell them that. This is my motherfucking house. I own this place. Don't disrespect me in here. That's somebody who's telling themselves they own this house. Because if you own a house, you just go, okay, look, I'm not going to put up with that. You're going to have to leave now. Why? Well, because this is my house and I'm not going to put up with that. But you don't have to go, I'm a grown-ass man, and start getting angry about it. Do you see? So your own actions and thoughts are what you need to control, because that's ultimately the only thing you can do anything about is yourself, no one else. So when you're trying to give people information, like I try to give people information, I wrote it in my book and I'm trying to give people information. I know that there's going to be a group of people that are going to go, idiot, doesn't know what he's talking about. To them, I am an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about, because that's not for them. This information that Raw is giving is not for everybody, because not everybody's awake enough to know it. The information that I'm giving you in my book is not information that everybody is awake enough to understand or understand, which is more important. So you have to allow them. It's okay that people say you're an idiot. It's okay that people say you don't know what you're talking about. Move on and better yourself. As you do that, people are going to see that. As you challenge people, don't believe what I have to say. Go and look this stuff up for yourself. If you agree with me, come back. If you don't, find someone else that you resonate with. People are astounded when they ask me about that. Aren't you worried that somebody has left the group? No. I don't require anybody to do anything. They stay or they don't. They either resonate with me and what I have to say, or they don't, and they move on. I'm not trying to sell a religion. I'm not trying to sell you on information. I'm here to give you the tools. If you see that and you start to realize by questioning yourself and me and what I'm telling you, and you realize the tools that I'm trying to give you are legit, you'll then further that and look into those tools, or you won't. I got to move on. That's just the way it is. Okay, let's continue with Rob.
Suggests a polarity between right and wrong, or allowed and not allowed. This may seem a minuscule point. However, to our best way of thinking it bears some weight. 54.14 Questioner, thank you. It bears weight to my way of thinking also, and I appreciate what you have told me. Now, I would like to then consider the origin of catalyst in. First, we have the condition of mind/body/spirit complex, which, as a function of the first distortion, has reached a condition of blockage or partial blockage of one or more energy centers. I will assume that catalyst is necessary only if there is at least partial blockage of one energy center. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. No. 54.15 Questioner, could you tell me why? Ra, I am Ra. While it is a primary priority to activate or unblock each energy center, It is also a primary priority at that point to begin to refine the balances between the energies so that each tone of the chord of total vibratory beingness resonates in clarity, tune, and harmony with each other energy. This balancing, tuning, and harmonizing of the self is most central to the more advanced or adept mind/body/spirit complex. Each energy may be activated without the beauty that is possible through the disciplines and appreciations of personal energies, or what you might call the deeper personality or soul identity. 54.16.
Right? So listen to what Ross says there, right? I know Peter says there's an old quote, leave your ego at the door. If you say that to anybody who lives in England, they get angry with you. I hate us Americans say that all the time over here. Leave your ego at the door, right? But he goes on to say, leave your ego at the door. And once you open the green door, once you see the brown door, it says, lock your ego away, and we can come in. You can come in a better person. When you say that, the people in England get mad because they say, old Americans always say, check your ego at the door, and they have no idea that we need the ego to learn. We actually do know that, and it is true. They're absolutely right. But we say, put your ego in check. When we say leave your ego at the door, we're like, we don't need anybody coming in here. We're all trying to have a good time and get together and to collaborate or have a barbecue or a party. And we don't need anybody who's all ego minded. What we mean by that, they don't ask that question. They just get mad at us. Their ego gets offended, which is hilarious, because just them getting angry with us because of saying that and saying, I don't talk to those people because they don't realize that you need the ego to because that's the only way that you learn. It's not the only way that you learn, but it is designed to help you learn. The ego is there for that. But you also shouldn't get triggered and allow your ego to get angry with someone when they say, because when Americans say that, and I'm pretty sure the Irish probably do too, because that's probably where we got it from, probably came over off the boat with the Irish, if we have the same saying, is my point there, Peter, is that what we mean by that is that we don't want anybody who's evil or egoic or in service to self coming in here. We don't need any of that. We don't want any of that. So if that's your motivation, check it at the door or don't come in. And that's what we mean when we say check your ego at the door, or like you said in the saying, right? Leave the ego at the door. Because that's the truth. You're either in control of your own faculties and you're not going to be triggered, or you're not. And that's what that saying means. Unless your ego gets triggered, and instead of asking, what do you mean by that? You assume, because you're egoic, that you know what's going on, and those people are just stupid because they don't realize that you need the ego. How about asking some American why they said that and what the motivation was and what that means? Because when you do, they describe it the same way that I described it to you. We don't need anybody who's going to get triggered over stupid shit coming in here to blow everybody's high, or to be the Debbie Downer, as we call it here in America, or be a Karen. You guys call it something different over in the UK. You guys call it a different name, Alice or somebody. We say Karen over here. We don't need that. Okay, that's not what we're about. So check your ego. It means get in control of your own faculties and not get offended. Let your ego get offended so easily. Be in control and be the adult in the room. That's what we mean by that. But that pisses off some people because and I know that it's mostly English people, because I've had those conversations with them. And I'm like, don't get mad because you don't understand what we're saying about that. We understand that the ego is needed to learn. It's necessary. We get that too. But it's also necessary to be able to put that aside so that you can get along with people. And that's what we mean when we say check your ego at the door. Be in control of your faculties and act like an adult while you're in this room, because we don't need people going, you're ego and you're evil and you're the devil, because that's what children do. So when the English get mad at us Americans, most of us see them as children, which makes them even more mad because it bruises their ego. They're supposed to be more advanced because they believe they are spiritually than Americans. Yet they're the ones that are doing, like you said, Bo, where they're yelling at you and they're being like the fundamentalist Christians, and they're yelling at you and calling you the devil, and because their ego is triggered and other things that have been programmed into them has been triggered, so that now they're fighting with you instead of asking you why you just said that and what you meant by that and trying to learn. They're not acting like the adult and thinking, well, maybe they don't know. Maybe I should ask. And because if they don't know and I ask, then I can help them to understand that, well, we need the ego. Don't just assume that and get mad at them. I'm not talking about that person. That person's ego. They don't know what they're talking about. We need that ego. They're idiots. Don't even talk to those people.
Not even worth your time. That's always good. Stop talking to people just because you think, because my ego told me that person's an idiot. See, those people who are going to talk like that and act like that, let them go away. That's why I just post what I post and let my friends list sort itself out. I say what I'm going to say and let my friends list sort it out. If you don't like me and you block me, I don't even have, most people have an app. I got blocked by 10 people today. I don't care how many people block me. I don't care how many people unfollow me. Don't care. If I cared about all of that, then I would be having to be right down the middle and lying and saying that I'm not offending anybody on the right or the left of any religion or any political party anywhere in the world, and walk that fine line and just talk about TNA and get clicks, likes, and all kinds of money. If that was my motivation, that's what I would do. Okay? It's not my motivation. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to give you the reality check. Reality check ahead. Caution. Okay? Reality check ahead. Let me put it up on the screen and then we'll get back to Raw again. Okay. Reality check ahead. Caution. The reality about reality. I'm not the angel who's supposed to be here to sacrifice myself and die for everybody's sins to prove to the world. That happened 12 times in the last one. Called himself Jesus. Okay. Jesus the Christ. That was that person's job. I am not that person. Didn't come here to do that. Okay. That was the nice, lovey guy, but look that up. My brother posted something about that, showing modern Jesus as opposed to biblical Jesus, and how the misconception of how everybody thinks the modern Jesus is and the reality of who Jesus was a little more harsh than people think, but also very objective and not subjective. And the modern Jesus says, oh, he loved everybody. No, he didn't. If you listen to the words from the Revelation, he says, I despise those people. Okay, so there were some people that Jesus didn't like because they were evil. Okay, so there's perception and reality, and that's why I post about that a lot in my memes and reels, showing you perception this way and reality that way. Okay, and that's why my book is entitled Returning to the Old Ways, and on the cover of my book it says reality check ahead, caution. All right, let's continue here. Let me go back to the chat so I can see what you guys are saying, and let me continue. Melissa, welcome. All right, let's continue with Raw.
Questioner. Let me make an analogy that I have just thought of. A 7-string musical instrument may be played by deflecting each string a full deflection and releasing it and getting a note. Or, once the strings are capable of being deflected through their full deflection, producing a note. Instead of producing the notes this way, taking the individual creative personality and deflecting each the proper amount in proper sequence to produce the music. Is this correct?
Okay, before he answers that, I'm gonna read what Anna just posted, and I put it up on the screen. For those of you who can see the visuals, you can read it. For those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast, I'll read it to you. Ego is needed. Actually, I could probably just read it off the screen, right? I'm looking over the chat. Ego is needed, right, when you have not opened to self and oneness to help you survive. But once you know who you are and you are connected to all, ego is not needed, right? Or connected, to all, ego is not needed. You are loved and safe. Ego belongs to the lower vibrations, not only the higher vibrations. So the ego, there, I think you messed up a little bit right there when you were trying to say that, but the ego is definitely needed because it helps you to learn that balance. The ego, say the devil on the left shoulder is the ego, and the angel on the right shoulder is your conscience, not your consciousness, but your conscience. So those are the two aspects of your personality, one being evil and one being good. The devil on your left shoulder, or the dark wolf on the, which wolf do you feed, from the Native American philosophical ideology, is teaching you the yin and the yang, darkness and light, masculine and feminine, warlike and nurturing. And those are the characteristics that you have to balance about yourself. To ascend, you have to balance all of those energies together. Feng Shui. That's the Kundalini, the Kunda buffer and the Kundalini energy, masculine and feminine. So the ego is one half of the archetypes that you need. That is the lower 3 chakras, this physical place. The conscience is the upper 3 chakras, the spiritual place. Your heart chakra is the center point where the two meet, the Vesica Pisces. The yin and the yang, what you see in that circle are two separates, but they have, the black has a white dot and the white has a black dot.
those are superimposed over each other and become the Vesica Pisces, which is the three toroidal fields, lower three chakras, one circle meeting at the heart. Upper three chakras, one circle meeting at the heart. So the lower chakra and the upper chakra, make the Vesica Pisces by meeting at the heart, both controlling either the lower chakra or the upper chakra, and both at the same time. Okay, so you are a triple toroidal field that make up that, what we call the Vesica Pisces. Okay, and the controlling factor is your heart, 369. The 6 number is the controlling number, which is where the love is. So if you're all lower three chakra, you still have some intelligent energy that you gain from that blending of the two, but you live in the lower three chakras, which is this physical place, physicality. And if you live in the upper three chakras and not in the lower three chakras, then you're being ruled by the upper three chakras and by the heart controlling all of the spirituality. But to truly balance everything, you have to balance the lower and the upper together and then move into the upper as you ascend. And as you're doing that, then the lower becomes less viable and becomes less physical. As your density gets thicker in the spiritual, your physical dimensionality, the denseness of your dimensionality becomes less. Okay, so right here we have a physical body in this place of doing in the third dimension. When you move to the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth, you start losing the physical body. It becomes less and less and less. And eventually you start becoming more of the spiritual body. You become energy. Eventually you lose the entire physicality of the physical body altogether, and you are just light energy. You are you are your true self, and you're no longer in the physical. That is what the beginning stages is here. You're supposed to learn that and move from there by balancing all of the chakras. So you can't have a balancing of the upper three without having the lower three. That's what Anna is referring to here. You have to have all of that together. So it does work, and the ego stays there till you get halfway through the sixth dimension. After you're halfway through the sixth density, then the ego is no longer there. As you move up into the seventh density and above that, the ego's gone. There is no good and evil anymore. There is only good. There is only light. There is only infinity. There is only infinite wisdom, infinite love, and the infinity of the universe itself. All of this other plane, all this ego that's down here, all the evil that is down here no longer exists there. This is something that's foreign, and even Ra couldn't 40 years ago tell the world this information that I'm telling you now, because this information would not be accepted by anyone on this earth, or very few people. I couldn't find anybody 40 years ago that I could tell this information to that would not look at me like I was insane. Now I can say it, and there's a good portion of the population that actually go, huh, don't know if I agree with that, but huh. And they don't immediately go lock him up, he's crazy, or laugh at me and go, you believe in UFOs, huh? Lunatic. 40 years ago, that was the case if I said I believed in aliens from another planet, especially 50 years ago. Okay, they'd take your kids away from you 50 years ago, even in the United States, if you said you believed in aliens. 40 years ago in the United States, if I said I was a Wiccan or a pagan or a Druid, they would take my kids away from me. In the United States, in the most liberal place on the face of the earth, in the San Francisco Bay Area, we had to pretend we were Christians so that outwardly, the first rule about Fight Club is that you don't talk about Fight Club, so people wouldn't take our children from us. My ex-wife and I, my first wife, she had a son, my stepson. We couldn't tell anybody until he was 18 years of age that we were Wiccan in certain communities, that we were Druids in any community, because they would have taken him. The state of California, the most liberal place on the face of the earth, would have taken him from us and made him a ward of the state because we were not Christians, even though they claim they don't even believe in God, that they're secularists. These same secularists would have taken our child from us because we claim to be of a different religion other than the orthodoxy idea in this country. Think about that. So 40 years ago, Ra couldn't tell you all of the information in the Law of One. That's why I talk about it today. Let's continue.
Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. In the balanced individual, the energies lie waiting for the hand of the Creator to pluck harmony. 54.17 Questioner, I would like then to trace the evolution of catalyst upon the mind/body/spirit complexes and how it comes into use and is fully used to create this tuning. I assume that the sub-logos that formed are tiny part of the creation using the intelligence of the logos of which it is a part. provides, shall I say, the base catalyst that will act upon mind/body complexes and mind/body/spirit complexes before they reach the state of development where they can begin to program their own catalyst. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is partially correct. The sub-logos offers the catalyst at the lower levels of energy, the first triad. These have to do with the survival of the physical complex. The higher centers gain catalyst from the biases of the mind/body/spirit complex itself in response to all random and directed experiences. Thus the less developed entity will perceive the catalyst about it in terms of survival of the physical complex with the distortions which are preferred. The more conscious entity, being conscious of the catalytic process, will begin to transform the catalyst offered by the sub-logos into catalyst which may act upon the higher energy nexi. Thus the sub-logos can offer only a basic skeleton, shall we say, of catalyst. The muscles and flesh having to do with the, shall we say, survival of wisdom, love, compassion, and service are brought about by the action of the mind/body/spirit complex on basic catalyst so as to create a more complex catalyst which may in turn be used to form distortions within these higher energy centers.
See, which is exactly what I was saying, building up to this point. So you have to realize that he's talking about, like, the ego and the balancing of the higher chakras, and how literally this opens up the pathway for you to then have these experiences and ascend or not, depending on your perspective. This is what Ra's talking about. So if you're living in the lower chakras and in the physical, then you will only have those experiences. If you're living in the upper chakras, you'll only have those experiences. If you're balancing the totality, right, of your mind, body, spirit totality, you're balancing all of that, then you will have a completely different experience altogether, which is going to be more uplifting. And this is what Ra's referring to here. Let's continue.
The more advanced the entity, the more tenuous the connection between the sub-logos and the perceived catalyst until, finally, all catalyst is chosen, generated, and manufactured by the self, for the self. 54.18 Questioner, which entities incarnate at this time on this planet would be of that category, manufacturing all of their catalyst? Ra, I am Ra. We find your query indeterminate but can respond that the number of those which have mastered outer catalyst completely is quite small. Most of those harvestable at this space/time nexus have partial control over the outer illusion and are using the outer catalyst to work upon some bias which is not yet in balance. 54.19 Questioner, in the case of service to self-polarization, what type of catalyst would entities following this path program when they reach the level of programming their own catalyst?
All right, we're going to stop there because it's getting a little bit later and I think my mother needs to get in the shower. So we'll back up a question, maybe 2 next week, and we'll start there. We'll start at like 17 or 18 and move back into 19, because now he's talking about a completely different aspect, and I don't want to get started on that. And because if we don't, then I'll never be able to finish, or I'll end up going on even longer. So instead of doing that, because I think, like I said, my mom may need to shower, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. But okay, so we'll go back like 2 questions. We're on 19 right there. We'll go back to 17, start there next week. I'm going to put that in my phone so I don't forget, because otherwise I'll forget, and I'll have to then look into it and figure out where we were. So let me, I thought I had one open already, but I guess I didn't open. Oh, no, there it is. So let me put there where I'm at. Hold on here. So session 54, question 17 is where we'll start. Okay. So before I go, one last commercial, right? So my book is out. It's on everywhere that you just Google it. Let me put it up on the screen again for you to see. Here's a copy of my book up on the screen for you to take a look at. It's called The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. And it's literally giving you the information. Some of you who are in the audience already know about it because you're already reading it. And eventually we will probably start doing a class on that book as we go. Start talking about that, because the information that I'm giving you in there is information that Ra has available for you in the Law of One, but couldn't come out right and say because of where it is that the world was 40 years ago. So there was information that they couldn't tell you at the time because people just weren't ready for it. Exponentially, literally, I tell people in 1984, 1981 and 1984, when Ra was channeling, there was 2.7 billion humans on the earth. 40 years later, in 2024, there is 7.9 billion humans on the earth. Okay. Of the humans that are on the earth currently, 68% of the population of this planet that have shown up in the last 40 years on this planet are wanderers. 68% of all of you out there are wanderers. You just don't know it yet. You may suspect it. Some of you know it. Some of you have never even heard that term before, and you don't know what that means. You are a soul who realized this place was stuck, heard the call, and went to the council and said, I would like to go down there and help. And you came down here and were born legally into a human body, just like me, to help. You just don't know it because, like everyone else, you come through veiled. I came through veiled in almost every lifetime that I came through. And in this one, I came through unveiled because I made sure to take steps to make it perfect so that I could be unveiled in this lifetime. And I hid. First rule about Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. I hid from the world and let no one, except for those closest to me, know that information until 2 years ago. Okay? Until 2 years ago. And even that was limited. I didn't come out until my book was at the publisher almost a year ago. It'll be a year ago in September when I gave my book to the publisher to be edited. Then I started telling people because they were telling me long before that to start telling everybody because we're moving into that phase of what's going on this earth. So you're going to hear more and more people talk about that, talk about being unveiled and knowing what's going on the planet around the world. Okay. So take a look at my book anywhere. Just Google that, whatever search engine you use, type in The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. It's all over the world. It's available everywhere in the world. I've already looked it up. Like you guys there down in Australia, you can't buy it from Australia. So you'll have to pay the cost to get it shipped in. So you could look around and find it. And if you can get it from somebody like the Philippines or South Korea, you might be able to get it cheaper with a less amount of money to have to pay shipping and handling to get it to you. Otherwise, you'll have to pay it. Or if you're in a place where you can't get the hardcover or soft cover book because it'll cost you too much to ship it to you, you can get it on Kindle or ebook for like $4, $4 American, $5 American. Okay. And then you can read it. You can put it on your phone. You can put it on your tablet. You can put it on your computer, and you can read it as well all you want. And so you don't have the actual hard copy of the book. Then if you decide that you like it, what I'm saying in there, and you want to buy a softcover or hardcover, then that's up to you. But then maybe there'll be physical books already in your country, in your neck of the woods, so it won't cost as much for you to pick it up. So I encourage anybody that's out there that doesn't want to pay them money because you happen to be in a country like Australia where they have to import it from the United States or another country to get it to you because there isn't any already shipped to Australia in print yet. Because of that, get it online. It's cheap. You can read it. There's no pictures to see in the book anyways. So unless you're one of those people that has to have a physical book, I like having physical books. I still love physical books other than ebooks. But if I can't get a hold of a physical book, I'll still get it on my phone or a computer so I can still read it. But I would rather have a physical book myself. I like having that. I'm old school. I like reading newspapers, and I don't do that anymore, but I have them for probably 10 or 12 years. But I like the newspapers, and I like the physical books. I like to smell the books. I love to go into libraries. I love to go into bookstores because the smell of the books and the whole nines is something that I grew up with. So it's nostalgic. So Google it, use whatever search engine you use, DuckDuckGo, whatever you use, wherever you're at. The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. One last commercial before I go because I haven't mentioned it at all. Next Thursday, this coming Thursday, which I believe is the first of the month, of August, I am going to be on Project Team Alpha on that show at 4 p.m. West Coast America time. That's GMT -7. So you can figure that out compared to where you are on the planet. 4 p.m. West Coast America time on Broadcast Team Alpha for 1 hour with Nori Love and Augie Nost talking about the reality about reality, returning to the old ways. I'll be on there this coming Thursday live. So we will be there to be able to talk to and answer questions in the chat and talk to you guys in the chat like I do here on Live on Friday. Then I'll be back on next Friday here on Orion Rising to talk about the Law of One and, of course, the reality about reality, returning to the old ways. So look for me on that. This is the first interview that I've given for my book and that'll be next Thursday, this coming Thursday, right? 6 days from now, August 1st. Project Team Alpha. They're on Facebook and YouTube, and I'm not sure where else. I know they're everywhere. I'll have links up on my Facebook page, but I'll also, when I get the advertisement, I'll put it on all. I'll put it on Instagram. I'll put it on Twitter. I'll put it on YouTube. I'll put it on Facebook. I'll put it everywhere, even maybe LinkedIn, because I'm putting there. I'm also posting on Rumble, so all this information will be out there for you guys to be able to tune into that show on Thursday to see me talking exclusively about my book, The Returning to the Old Ways, the reality about reality, returning to the old ways, next Thursday on that. So they're getting the exclusive interview, first interview. I've waited and put them first because Augie's a friend of mine, and we go back 7-8 years. We started working together in the endeavor of getting information out to the planet. We've worked together on projects where we've done webinars, working together and talked. And he's interviewed me. I've interviewed him throughout the years. So tune into that. The links will be up on my pages and my groups as soon as I get the meme from them for the commercial, which I'm going to get a hold of Augie this weekend, because I am the next show. They just had a show yesterday, which I linked to you guys to watch and hit like and stuff. So if you guys follow me, you know that. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. I hope to see you guys next week on that show on Thursday, 4 p.m. West Coast America time, GMT -7. And then Friday, 3 p.m. West Coast America time, GMT -7, back here to talk about the Law of One and, of course, my book. Have a great weekend. Have a great night. This has been Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show.